These machines, of course, were not computers.
We're open.
Okay, well, good morning from the Fitteramics studio here on the north side of Bozeman, Montana. It's mid-February, but it feels like the past couple days have definitely been spring. So that's been really energizing. I'm super excited to be here today with Emily Fitterman. She is the creator of Fitteramics. This is one of the early episodes of Sorry We're Open, so thank you for tuning in to an episode as we get going here. Again, Sorry We're Open is all about providing local creators, makers, solopreneurs, craftsmen and women with a space to talk about the art, talk about what's interesting to them, talk about the things that we see behind us today and how they come to be and really getting into the humanity of craft and creativity. So today, again, super excited to be in this real maker studio of Fitteramics. Thank you for having us, Emily.
Yeah, of course. Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, this is awesome. First, let's start with, a little bit about you, how we got here, and then we'll get into all things of these creatures behind us.
Yeah, of course. My name's Emily Fitterman. I'm a ceramic artist, as you can tell. Here in Bozeman is where I live. I guess Fitteramics, this series of art kind of came about in 2021 after a kind of painful hip injury. This kind of came about. It's about growth.
Really fun. Tell me a little bit more about how you first fell in love with this sort of craft.
Yeah.
And, we talked in prep for this conversation about your background in baking.
Yes.
And then, we've talked about the other business you're involved in, the car tinting, all an expression through a medium. But again, you started with, it's all art.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how all of those things and college courses led up to how you got into this.
So I moved to Bozeman, I think it was like 2010. And I really got into ceramics. I guess the origin story was my first throwing class.
Okay.
So during that throwing class, I actually had a fall at work in the dish room. So I slipped, hit my head, hurt my tailbone. So doing that throwing class was kind of a nightmare. Every time I look at the wheel, I would get dizzy and I couldn't sit for a long time. So I felt like I just couldn't put in the effort and the work that I could have. And it kind of haunted me. After that class, I've always taught private art lessons. And now that I had this knowledge, I was like, I'm going to get a wheel and a kiln for my student and teach her how to do it. But I think it was my subconscious saying, you need to get better at it. And that's what I did. So ever since that head injury in that class, I've kind of just been working on ceramics. Yeah. So that was like 2010. And like during that time, like I even had a different blog where I would do baking and create like a piece for it. So like I was doing different things. But Fitteramics came about after I think I just mentioned like that hip injury I had. It's kind of crazy. My ceramic journey is just flooded with injuries. But I am happy and healthy now and everything's fine.
Good.
But during that hip injury, there was just a lot of changes to my life. And I kind of internalized, and I'm an artist, so you take what you're going through and you create something out of it. So the idea of Fitteramics is very much about growth. This idea got stuck in my head, and the whole premise is it's kind of growth from me. So the things that I create, I kind of like to imagine that they're falling off of my soul. They're little pieces of me. And they have a little bit of me in them. And once they're created, they kind of take a life of their own, And I really enjoy seeing the characters and personalities and all of these textured creations that I'm making,
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's led you to 2024, where we are today.
Yes.
Fitteramics in full swing.
It's going.
I want to get into just how funky. We've got a little bit of a scene here on some completed things, some unfinished things, some misfit related things on the misfit shelf, which I love. Obviously I think what first fascinated me about the medium which you're in, but also your style, is how unique it is. Taking things that we've always seen, a vase or a candle holder or a mug, and combining a different style of art into this.
Yeah.
And then in our prep for a conversation, looking at things like this, this is a piping, method essentially.
Yes.
Tell me about, how you got to this style, why it was important to find your style, how it's been easy for you to kind of scale into creating other things with a style. Talk about the Fitteramics style.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the specific style. So I did mention I'm an avid baker. Food's a very big part of my life. Even today, I'm excited for breakfast, Yeah,
me too.
Clay, like even during that first throwing class, I came across slip. Intuitively, what I wanted to do when I first saw that slip and that consistency is put it in a piping bag. And I remember I first made like a bowl and decorated with that slip and made like a flower decoration. So it was just intuitive from my baking knowledge and transferred over into ceramics. So a lot of the textures that you see are mostly done with a piping bag, like this one. These bigger drips, like everything's kind of at different consistencies.
Okay.
But most are done out of a piping bag in different like textures and consistencies. The colors that are created, I treat the slip kind of like frosting and use mason stain to add in. I use a hand mixer and mix it in. And I really enjoy that because it kind of controls like the pastel colors and it's almost like a surprise. Because when I'm mixing my slip, I don't actually get to see the full color until it's like fully fired.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of, all of the colors are kind of unpredictable in their variation. Yeah.
Do you think that plays into the soul aspect and online, what makes me really happy every time I see a post or something is just like the animation that you provide, the life I'd say that you provide to these little bits of what you call falling off of your soul.
Yeah.
I mean, talk through why you've created that expression of your art. Like, how does that make sense to you? Talk about that.
So let's say, so I'm making like a little critter hitter, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I throw it on the wheel and then once it's like created, I kind of see it kind of already has like a personality. And the fun part is, so like there's different steps in the process. So I throw on the wheel and then I have to hand build certain aspects of it. And like the decision making in that process is where the personality comes from. Because there's like, maybe I should put the pipe lower or higher. Or how does this bowl look on that one? Do I want a big one, small one? And like the character starts forming.
It's real time.
It's real time, yeah. And the body's formed and I was like, what texture goes with this? What color should he be? And by that point, he usually, or she, they have like a gender, It's just kind of funny. And I was like, a drippy thing or maybe a furry thing would work. So it's very much about the process and seeing it in real time. Yeah, it's fun.
And then online, you've given them almost like their first life, which is the googly eyes, and some of the even finished ones we have the eyes on, but you've got them singing or talking about something.
Yeah.
Talk about how the art continues to be an expression even after you've put it on the shelf or sold it. Like, why is that important to you? It's so baked into how it's created, on just how present you are in the act of creating it. Talk about how important that is to you.
It's so important. Okay, so I think when we were prepping for this phone call, I was like, do you have like a machine-made mug? And do you have like a handmade mug?
Yeah,
like,
you were asking me.
Like when I love purchasing like handmade items. And I feel very strongly about the fact when I purchase something that's handmade, it feels different than like a machine made thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like there's a piece of the energy from the artist in there. And it's kind of hard to describe, and it's very woo woo. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I really leaned into that, and it's important to me. And I like putting pieces of myself into the art. And I imagine that they're living their own life now, you know? Yeah, I think it's just even like a painting. Like there's something to it that you can't quite put your finger on. But I really leaned into that. And yeah, imagining that it is its own thing now. And it has its own life to live.
That's so fun.
Yeah. Or completely crazy, but
Right.
yeah, I enjoy the
Could
fun
be
aspect.
anything.
It could be anything.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, thank you for walking us through kind of the what and why. So unique to see, how kind of almost your intuition led you to creating something just totally. I've never seen anything like it before. So really,
wonderful.
really interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, talk about, you have a clear style here, which
Yeah.
is whether it's piped clay or a variation of that with texture. Talk about how important it is for you as an artist to have found that style as a constraint to the body of work that you call Fitteramics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so nice having like a box to work in. So we all know the different pieces that can be created: a mug, a bowl, this and that. The texture that I have, this box that I've created, like there's so many different textures. So it's really created a wide open space that I can keep changing and adapting to. It's been so beneficial. So, okay, how can I describe it? Like this drippy texture. So I recently started making a gradation of colors. So like that drippy texture, I was like, oh, I want to do this now. Like I'm still working in that constraint, but like a different avenue has opened up. So I'm really excited for the future of making bigger pieces, bigger textures, or, you know, the different avenues that open up in that kind of texture constraint, you know? Like if there's a texture, like I can do it. I can create like a different texture. Like it's really exciting. Yeah.
And that makes it, I mean, does that make it easier for you to create when you know that, hey, I'm here for texture. Now I can look at what the physical form of it is or what that texture then becomes. But you have kind of your context loaded, I guess.
Oh, yeah. It helps. It's even hard to describe how much it helps, but it's a fun world. Yeah. It's hard to put my finger on how to describe how great that is.
Yeah,
Sorry.
maybe that's the point itself. I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing all about that. Where is Fitteramics headed? You just mentioned something that you're really excited about, which is more different texture, but talk a little bit about what's on your mind for 2024 or what you're excited to create.
I'm really excited about making bigger things. Maybe like I've been really into making like lamps. And I have a giant kiln over there. So giant. I can go, it feels giant. Yeah. I can go like this high, I think. I should probably have measured that in real time. But I was like, what if I had like a giant lamp? And I'm just so excited about giant drips and different things.
Whoa.
So yeah, I think that would be really fun. Making like some big old stuff, you know?
Maybe I saw that on your sketch pad the other day on Instagram. Yeah. Is that what I was seeing?
I know. I'm like lamps
I love that.
and weird things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. To kind of close up the conversation, we go through a segment called Closing Up Shop, which is just like a kind of rapid fire, quick little questions here and there. So first question is, what are you listening to right now?
Okay, I thought about this one. I found a new podcast. It's called We're Here to Help. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
Okay, have you ever watched New Girl?
No.
Oh, shucks. Okay. Well, the main character on there, Nick, he's played by Jake Johnson, and he has this new podcast where it's like an advice show. So people call in with silly problems, and they offer silly suggestions.
Okay.
And it's been pretty fun. It's brand new, and I've enjoyed a little laugh in the studio.
Fun.
Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Is there anything right now that you're watching, movies, TV shows, series, that are just like inspiring you, or you're just laughing about or having fun with?
Avatar: The Last Airbender just came out on Netflix. Came out yesterday. I've already watched 3 episodes, so I'm kind of obsessed about it.
Josh behind the camera clapping as well.
Yeah, I hope they do justice for it. So yeah, that's the newest show that I've been watching.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A little bit of a bigger question, but as you are so much of a sponge in applying, your own ethos to the art, is there anything outside of your realm or within ceramics, but anything that you look around at and get inspired by, or has captivated you, or thought, oh wow, what if I really went out here and did that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I thought about this. I would say like the biggest realm idea, like outside of my box, I always say like, or I don't always say, but I have noticed every time I like do a little bit of edible, smoke a little bit, I usually come up with some pretty great ideas. And that kind of counts as being in a different realm,
Sure, yeah.
But I would say like I really enjoy in the summertime like hikes. I love just getting outside, like honestly a walk and just looking at the sky usually gets just ideas rolling. Yeah.
What's your favorite winter sport? Do you get out and snowshoe or ski at all?
I wish. We actually moved to Bozeman. Me and my husband were like, we're going to start skiing. But we've always been super poor. So one day we're going to get one of those season passes and we're going to make that a winter hobby.
Fun.
I know. Hopefully.
Fun. Hopefully the snow
soon.
continues to stick. Now I sound like every other person in Bozeman, but
I know. But it's true. I love
complaining
the snow.
about the winter.
Every time someone's like hates the snow, I'm like, why do you live here?
Like,
this is the
I love
best
it.
part.
Yeah. The seasonality of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cozy.
Well, last question. Where can people follow along, find you? You mentioned potentially some of your work in new development here on the north side coming soon. Talk about where people can find and follow along.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's called Fitteramics. And I currently don't like sell online or anything. I'm just too gosh darn busy. So Danae, the owner of Biome Slow Craft, she sells my work here in Bozeman. And it's wonderful just being a part of that store. And she actually is getting a new location right next to Wild Crumb. So super excited for her. Yeah. And just to be a part of that wonderful space she's created.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for having this conversation. Super fun just to talk about art.
It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Cheers. I'm very excited to have Brandish as the first sponsor of the Sorry We're Open podcast. Josh, founder of Brandish, guest on the first episode of the podcast, is here to tell you more about them.
Yeah. So we partner with marketing teams and agencies to help introduce AI solutions and strategies to the way that they go about work. So if you're an agency owner and you have a bunch of clients and you're getting pinged about, hey, what can we do about AI this or AI that, or you have questions about your own operation, we help you sort through all the noise to identify what are the solutions that are going to be the best for your brand and for the way that you want to conduct business, as well as your customers. So if you have ideas about how to deploy, or if you have questions really about how to deploy and help your customers achieve their objectives as a business, but you need a thought leader and a partner to help guide you through that in collaboration, Brandish is going to be the team that can help you pull that off. So we do all sorts of services from AI automation, the consulting piece, training and development, looking at augmenting your team with different technologies and tools. Pretty much where people, process, and product exists, that's where we're going to come in and help you sort through your biz ops.